Previously on the live stream. On a film set, what is a stinger? It looks like Eric Cardzada got it first. Stinger is an extension cord. That's exactly right. Mark Cordero says, isn't that a cocktail? And Vettel on YouTube wants to know, do you know what production assistant is called in Norwegian? It's Prodas. Translates to professional toilet. Oh, that's sad. What does the acronym SOT? SOT stand for? Eric's got it again. Sound on tape. And of course, we're not recording the tape anymore, but I still like the acronym SOT just because it's nice and short. So that's what I like to, I'll call my file names that when I'm organizing my footage. Question number 3. What is overcranking? Eric said, isn't that how they shoot slow-mo? And Johnny says, is it increasing the shutter speed? Technically, they are both right. Overcranking means slow motion, speeding up the recording speed. Like literally you would take an old film camera and crank it faster to record the frames faster. Johnny Boz says, sounds like it sucked back then. Having to manually crank your camera. Everything sucked. You had huge cameras. This piece of gear is commonly called sticks. I think Eric is 4 for 4 here. He says tripods. He came in just before Hank-O-Matic, who said tripod. Everyone's saying tripods. I think Eric just has the fastest connection. He's actually in the other room watching. Generally, the word pan means a movement like this, horizontally. Although you hear people use it to mean all sorts of movement. Pan up, pan down. But if you were angling the camera upward, what would you call it? Ooh, Hank-O-Matic for the win on this one. Hank-O-Matic says tilt. Alvar on YouTube says, to a client, everything is a pan. What does it mean to stop down? Half the exposure. I'll take that from Rhett. Yeah, have the exposure. That's the important thing. If you don't understand stops, then ND filters are useless. Like, what does a 3-stop filter do for me? Well, it cuts your light into an eighth, because it's 1 stop, which is half the light, another stop, which is half of that light, so now we're down to a quarter, and then another stop, the 3rd stop, brings you down to 1/8 of the light. What is a C47? A clothespin, says Alvar on YouTube, getting in just before Eric. C47, another one of those terms that's like, okay, now you're just trolling us filmmakers. Like, how long does it take to say the word clothespin? And then our final question. In movies, what is non-diegetic sound? Diegesis means story, I think? In Latin? I don't know. This is something I learned in film school. The Filmmakers Workshop says added sound. Non-diegetic sound is added sound. That is correct. This is a good answer from Kevin Walls. Sound that exists outside the world of the film. Yeah, when you add music on top of a movie, it's non-diegetic sound. Although, you often see non-diegetic sound begin as non-diegetic sound, or presumably non-diegetic sound, and then it becomes diegetic sound. Like, you hear the song, you're going through the town, drone shots, it's all cool, and then you land in someone's car, and you realize they're hearing that song on the radio. Then it becomes diegetic sound. I think that Eric Cardzada on Twitch 100% won that round. I think he got 6 or 7 out of those. So congratulations, Eric, on being such a great film student with a fast internet connection, living in the same continent as me. A lot of disclaimers there. Hello. Welcome to today's live stream, to a little filmmaking quiz trivia show we're going to do here on Twitch and YouTube. I already see some of you on Twitch. Yellow Snails here says Twitch is about 15 seconds ahead of YouTube. He's running both right now and has decided Twitch is the place to be. And I'll tell you why. You may actually want to migrate from YouTube to Twitch today if you're up for it. There is a fun advantage to being on Twitch today. I'll talk about that in a minute. We're also going to talk about these interesting lights I have going on behind me. Let's switch it to, this is called party lights. Let's do paparazzi lights. Ooh, oh, this looks like a game show. YOLO Snail says my audio seems a bit ahead of my video. Let's see. Maybe I should delay it even more. Let's see if everyone else thinks that. Or let's make sure I've actually turned on my audio delay. Oh, forgot to turn on my audio delay. Now it should be correctly delayed. Sorry about that. Nick and Mix is here on Twitch and says also running both YouTube and Twitch today. Rhett Thompson is on YouTube right now and says he was definitely getting screwed last time when it came to the timing. So yeah, we did this. We did a kind of a game show thing a couple weeks ago. Today should be a lot more fun. I brought some lights. I have a lot more questions. The questions are going to be interactive. Like if you come over to Twitch, you should come over to Twitch because there's a chat bot that'll help us answer the questions live. You can still answer on YouTube. I can still see your answers. It just won't populate the chart. Lots of you on Twitch right now. This is great to see so many of you here. Crash Landon is here. Kay Younger's here. Says, feels like you should have a Family Feud theme playing. I guess I could go to my chat here. Here's the chat. Let's see. Yeah, lots of people here. It's great to see you all, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch. So let's start by, we'll do a practice question because I want to show you this poll chat bot that I'm using on Twitch that I'm going to use today. That if you want to be on Twitch, you could come play with it. And Eric Ficardza is here on Twitch, says, I'm on the road to a Super Bowl party, so I may not be winning tonight. Yeah, our reigning champion, Eric, it's too bad that he's on his way to a party. I like that Nick and Mix is over on YouTube saying, come to Twitch, everyone. It's Griffin Hammond on Twitch. It's just twitch.tv/Griffin Hammond. You'll have to create an account. But I hope that this doesn't go super fast, and it's also not competitive. So if you need to leave and miss a question to set up a Twitch account, go for it if it looks like it's more fun. But let's practice this poll system and see if it works. So the way this works is I should just be able to load in my question. I'm going to load in a question from the last time we did this, so this is not really the game yet. Okay, and here, I'm just gonna click Start Poll. It's gonna come into the chat and say, hey, here's the poll. On a film set, what is a stinger? Click 1 or type 1 and enter for clapboard, type 2 for extension cord, type 3 for Fresnel, and I can show you the quiz here. So we're getting live results as people hit 1, 2, 3, or 4 and hit enter. It's showing up right here, right now. And we'll see how many people we answer. But also, you can answer on YouTube, and I will see those just fine. Yeah, well, I see lots of people on Twitch answering. Someone answered 34, which is either an error or... I see Wildcard777 is here. Oh, maybe that's not who I think it is. I thought that was my friend Adam. But I think Adam is actually just Adam. Man, but lots of good people are here. This is great. Oh yeah, this might be the most viewers I've ever had on Twitch at the start of a stream. So we should get going. You all are here. Thanks for coming over from YouTube. So this makes it look like only one person answered because like all of you answered it correctly. It's actually a lot of you. If we click over to the chat, we can see how many of you did it. And I think the bot is smart enough that like for those of you that answered incorrectly, like 1080. I just don't think it shows up. You also, though, can type the answers. If you want to do the full word, you can, and that should work. So the way today is going to work, Crash Landon says, I'm a big deal in the indie filmmaker world. Hey, Griffin, Electra Collective on YouTube. I'm so glad you all are here. So we should get started. This is the way this game show is going to work. For one, I have some fun lights behind me. I might just leave them on this mode. Because I don't know how to do. These are aperture bulbs, and I'm using an app called Sidus Link, which is not the most intuitive app to run these. In a little bit, I'll show you how I built this thing. I built it today. I'll show you a little time lapse of that, and we can talk about it as we go. But the way this game show is going to work today is there are 24 questions that are all interactive. We'll open up the poll, and I've broken it into 8 rounds. It's 3 questions per round, and every round starts with like a film lingo, like film set terminology sort of question. Then the next question is a math question, filmmaking math. And then the third question is a film history question. And the third question will always have a video that we play first, and then we'll answer the question. So no points. Hopefully you have fun testing your knowledge, and maybe you learn some things you didn't know today. And it'll be fun to move through the chat and see what everyone's talking about. Yeah, Algae80 says that this thing behind me reminds him of my build on Indie Mogul. In fact, it felt a lot like that. I was using a drill bit that I realized I maybe haven't used since I built my Indie Mogul light like 12 years ago or something. Michael Manna says, I don't need points to dominate. And Nick and Mix is doing a great job in the YouTube comments reminding people that if they want to come over to Twitch, there is the interactive component where you can actually, I mean, I can still see your answers on YouTube. We can still talk about it. But if you want to populate the chart that we saw, let's pull that up again. This was a test question. If you want to populate this chart with your answers in the chat, come over to Twitch to do it. All right, so let me close this poll. And look, everyone voted for extension cord. That was right. The yellow doesn't actually mean correct. It just means most voted, but you all were correct. Great job. So let's go to our first question. Our first question today is, on a film set, what is a quarter apple? I guess I'll go to it. What is a quarter apple? Ooh, I like we're getting some diversity of answers here. But most people coming in on the plywood box. And this is one thing about having it on screen. I may have to cut away from it on some questions to not let you see, although I guess you could see in the chat what everyone else is saying. So yeah, let me know what you think. Should I leave these up so you could see them live, or do you feel like that's unfair? I guess people are seeing it in the chat anyway. And let's see what people are saying on YouTube too. Let's see. Well, most of you are coming through on Twitch. Elytra Collective saying, great use of the B7C bulbs. These ones behind me. Aperture should sell these. Should sell, yeah. Should sell this block of wood. This is what I really wanted. It was just some rigid piece of wood that could hold these bulbs. Although it's kind of distorted because I'm looking at it with this wide angle lens. I think it even exaggerates how much off I was on this one. That's just a problem with my drill bit, that it's an old drill bit, and I probably just didn't get it exactly centered. I mean, I know I centered all the pencil marks, but that one didn't go through at the right angle. I guess maybe they even could have gone through the wood at slightly different angles. All right, but it looks like you all knew the answer to this. A quarter apple is a quarter apple box. An apple box is a plywood box that you use on set to stand on or put under a C-stand to prop something up. It's just a wooden box, apple box. A quarter apple is a certain size. So good job knowing that. Let's go to our second question. Let's see. Question number 2 today. Question number 2 of round 3. Sorry, round 1. Question number 2 of round 1. Typically, warm household lighting is the color temperature what? I'm getting a text from my friend Nick, and I don't know what it is. There's a lot of you here. Thank you all for coming. And it looks like almost everyone knew the answer to this one. That typically warm lighting indoors is 2700 Kelvin. That's generally what a light bulb is. Sometimes they may be 3200 or something, but they're generally in that range, or 3500. Pretty much by the time you get up to 5000 Kelvin, you're talking about like cloudy light or light coming through a window. Really blue daylight can be 6500 Kelvin. I don't even know what 8000 Kelvin is. I mean, I'm sure it exists. Did you know that all of these temperatures are the temperature of this particular color? I think it's on lead. Tell me if I'm right. When lead is heated up to these extreme temperatures, I don't even have a concept of how hot a Kelvin is. Maybe someone can tell me. But when you're up to 5000 Kelvin on lead, I'm pretty sure lead is the same color as that light that's coming through the window. That's where they come up with these numbers. They're not just meaningless. Algae says, fun fact, hotter stars have colder colors. Oh, yeah. Crash Landed says, the lighting in my house is closer to 6500 Kelvin. Yeah, I mean, right now what I'm shooting with is 6100 Kelvin. So, yeah, this is not natural for indoor lighting. Nick is saying it doesn't work when he tries to chat on Twitch. Anyone else having trouble chatting on Twitch? My good friend Nick. I don't know if are you seeing the video, Nick? I guess you can't tell me because you can't chat. I'm sorry. Well, you could still answer these questions on YouTube, and I will still see them, and we'll still see them in the live chat. They'll show up here. So I think we're already hitting more comments than ever on this stream. Thank you all. So let's go to question number 3. This will be our first video question. So let me see if I know how to do this. And let me make sure I've turned off the last poll. That's the thing I have to remember, is I have to like click through all these polls. Okay, so our third question in round 1 is our video question. So let's go to the video. Eric says he has to run. I'm sorry, Eric, you're not going to win this one. All right, let's go to our first video.
Look out!
Jesus! Shit.
Go. We're gonna make it. Come on, we're gonna make it.
I'm not gonna make it!
Back up now!
Jesus!
Save us!
All right, so I showed you this clip from Children of Men, 2006. As we go through these rounds, each film is going to get older and older. But Children of Men, one of my favorite films, that was one of several long shots in the film. I think that shot was like 4 minutes straight, where they had this floating camera moving around a car. And what I want to know is, let me load up this question, is in the film Children of Men, how many individual shots in the film run longer than 45 seconds? Because they had a few of these. And I think Alfonso Cuarón, I think he's the director, who went on to do Gravity. Didn't Gravity start with like a 16-minute sequence? Lots of different answers. This is a fun question. We got The Gunner Storm is on YouTube. Good to see you here. Yeah, a very compelling shot, says Crash Landon. What I love about that shot is that it lingers on all the characters and their reactions. I mean, it starts in this very fun place. All the characters are having fun. I mean, I didn't even show you like the 2 minutes leading into this. They're just having like a nice conversation in the car, and it lingers on everyone to kind of see how they're feeling. And then this horrible thing happens to them, this ambush, and it continues to move around and see how everyone's reacting emotionally to it. And so it's all robotic camera. They don't have any room for a camera person in this position. All right, so answers all over the place. Let's see. Let's close this down. And this will tell us what the most popular answer was, but that's actually not that's not the correct answer. The correct answer is 16. They did 16 very long shots in this film. All right, so let's move on to round 2. YOLO Snail says, drat. Okay, round 2. Question number 1, our film set question. I have so many questions here, it's hard to see them all. What is a practical light? I do like watching the answers come in live. I imagine because there's no points, there's no actual competition, no one feels like this is cheating. It's fun to see them all come in live. And man, you are all... Algie says, oh no, wrong number. I'm guessing it doesn't let you change. I'd be curious to try it. Actually, I was second guessing. You all were so smart last time we did this. And so I felt like it would be difficult to write questions for you because you know so many things. And then especially if it's multiple choice. It's one thing if it's not multiple choice and you have to write it in the chat. But when it's multiple choice, I have to make them relatively difficult. So the fact that I ever have anyone answering the wrong question makes me so happy. It just means that my hard work in crafting like slightly confusing answers. So yeah, let's see. Oh man, this is interesting. We're gonna close this down. Most of you said light currently on set, and that's, you know what? I can see why you said that. That's the wrong answer. I meant to say like light appearing on camera. A light on set. I have lots of lights on set that you can't see. They're not on camera. They're not practical, I don't believe, until they go onto camera. In fact, let me cut to my wide shot here. Yeah. I guess like these are practical lights because we can see them in the shot. This is not I suppose it's a practical light now that I'm cutting to it. But generally it's not operating as a practical light. It's not in a lamp or something. Tell me if I have that definition wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the correct way to talk about this. That these are practical lights for this shot and that one's not. Crash Landed says, LOL. Bonnie Mercury says, haha, yes, I knew you were being tricky. And I guess that's the funny thing about only getting one. Once you put in your number, you're locked in. Sorry for tricking you. All right, let's go to question number 2 of round 2. Okay, so the lead into this question is I am currently using an f1.4 lens right now, my 12 millimeter, and I have a 3-stop ND filter on this lens because I have a lot of light happening around me, and so I need to knock down the exposure. And so my question for you is, let's pop this up. Pretty much what's the equivalent exposure? Like now that I have this 3-stop filter on at f1.4, what would I have to bump my aperture up to not use this ND filter? What is 3 stops darker than f1.4? Again, I love that there's multiple answers happening. Just moving some windows around on my screen to make this a little bit easier to see everything that's happening. I gotta make my chat a lot bigger because the chat is so active. All right, let's do the math here. If you know your f-stop scale, and we start at f1.4, the next stop, so cutting the light in half from f1.4 would be dropping it to f2. So I'm saying 1 stop. And then to go from f2 another stop, cutting it in half again would be f2.8. So that's 2 stops, guys. And then f4 is the third one. So a 3-stop filter essentially moves you from the exposure of f1.4 to the exposure of f4. But the benefit, of course, is that I get to keep my lens wide open at f1.4 and throw the background out of focus. So that's why I use ND filters like this, and why it's helpful to have the f-stop scale memorized. Okay, that was our math question in round 2, and now we're going to go to our filmmaking, our video question. Let me get that one ready to go, that question. And let's cut to our video. This is from the Errol Morris film, The Fog of War.
Why are we here? You lost your wingman. It hurts me as much as it does you. I sent him there. And I've been there. I know what it is.
All right, so that was Robert McNamara, former Secretary of Defense, and this film, it's a great documentary, and he's looking right at the camera, which you see a lot in documentaries these days. And Errol Morris, the director, developed this system to create that effect, to have the interview subject look right into the camera. So I want to know, what is the name of that system? This is a thing I've never used. I don't really want it. I've looked at them. I mean, there's like third-party ones you can buy, and they're just bulky. Like I prefer. I don't mind having someone look off camera. The reason, of course, to do that is to have that real emotional connection with your subject and the audience. They can stare right into their eyes, and they're seeing you, the director, when they're being interviewed. So rather than asking someone to look into a camera, which is like impossible, the benefit of this is that it's pretty much like a teleprompter or a periscope, where the light signal bounces through a mirror, and so the camera's right behind the mirror, but they're seeing the face of the interviewer. So we got a few different responses here. I'm gonna close this poll. Most of you said Teleview, which is just a made-up thing I made. I think. I don't think it's a real thing. Interatron is the name of the Errol Morris device. Crashlanded is saying, so you're saying the answer was not Periscope. All right, let's go on to round 3. And you know what I really need to do? I really need to pull up my Cytoslink app. And when you all get a question right, I should change the color of the lights here. Let's see. Let's go to my quick shots. You all got that one wrong, so red. And we'll leave that up until the next question. Okay, let's see. Where is this question? So many questions. There it is. Okay. Our first question of round 3 is, phantom power is needed for what? Ding, 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 ding. Lots of answers coming in. And it kind of looks unanimous. I'm going to go ahead and give you the green correct answer. You all knew that it was microphones. Great job. Let's finish that poll and go to the next one. Let's go right to it. Let's see. Here's our math question. Assuming square pixels, which resolution is wider than 16 by 9? Red Thompson came in real fast. I feel like maybe he meant to answer the previous one. Not saying it's right or wrong, just I was amazed at the speed. It came in like immediately. So we're talking about resolutions wider than 16 by 9. I'll give you a hint. All of these are 16 by 9 aspect ratio, except for one, which is wider than 16 by 9. I like seeing some different answers. So I think I'm throwing people off with the 1441. I'm going to give you the red lights because most people picked the wrong answer. 1440 by 810 is a 16 by 9. Actually, if you're a stickler, maybe do the math. I can't remember if I rounded up or down. It might not be perfectly 810, so maybe you're right. Maybe you're technically correct. But 1440 is, I mean, sometimes you see that width. And if you divide it by 16, multiply it by 9, you get 810. 1920 is also a normal 16 by 9. For the people that answered 4096, that is Cinema 4K, which is a 17 by 9 aspect ratio, ever so slightly wider than ultra high definition. And this is where I think it's funny that we use the term 4K a lot to describe ultra high definition, which tops out at 3840 pixels. So it's not even technically 4000 pixels across, but it is 16 by 9. But if you take that same vertical resolution, 2160, and then just go out to 17:9 aspect ratio, you get to 4096. Sorry for all the math. I kind of love the math questions, though. I really wrote the math questions first, and then was like, well, I have to give you something else. It can't just be math. All right, we're going to do a Back to the Future question now. So I'm going to play you a Back to the Future clip.
Now, why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
It's leave, you idiot. Make like a tree and leave. You sound like a damn fool when you say it wrong.
All right, then leave and take your book with you.
All right, so the incredible thing about that clip is this was 1989 and difficult to do a moving camera shot with the same actor twice. That's the same actor playing old Biff and young Biff. So how do they do a camera move if you lock it down on a tripod, it's easy to. But you have to be able to repeat a camera motion. You have to be able to use motion control camera to make that possible. And I think was it that clip where he threw the through the magazine? I mean, that had to be a visual effect. But I want to know, what is the name of the system that? Well, here, let me bring up the poll. For Back to the Future Part 2, Industrial Light and Magic developed this motion control system. So this is ILM that made it. And the Gunner Storm on YouTube says, you would use a Back to the Future 2 video. Yeah, this is kind of a reference to like one of my own videos that I've made. I've made a video about this before. Algie80 says that was an amazing effect. The answer is that, let's see, so much chat. The answer is that this is the best Back to the Future movie, says Crash Landon. Yeah, it was definitely my favorite growing up, and probably, I guess it still is. It has all the fun stuff. I love the way it ends. And I love that Adrian Rascon says, Razor Crest. Anyone know what that is? I mean, well, clearly many of you know what that is. That's the Mandalorian ship, right? All right, let's go back to the quiz. Yeah, Nick and Mick says Mandalorian ship. Adrian Rascon says Mandalorian. Yeah. All right, so we got answers all over the place, but I will say that most of you got it right. So let's go green on the lights. Good job. Vista Glide is what ILM developed for Back to the Future 2. And let's move on to round 3. Round 3. And let me, just to help myself out, I'm going to close out a bunch of these old questions. Just going to take a second to do that. Let's pop up the chat for a moment. I have like all of these questions saved on a screen. And if I just close a few of them, it'll make it a little bit easier for me to keep going. I have to make sure I don't accidentally close future questions, though. Okay. Go motion is the stop motion thing, says Mickle 190. I feel like go motion is something I stole from ILM's Wikipedia page. Like it was another thing. Oh, you're right. It is the stop motion thing. Yes. It was, I believe, the Tauntaun in Empire Strikes Back. I don't actually know anything about go motion, but whatever ILM developed to aid in the stop motion animation, yes, so that's called go motion. YOLO Snail says, we deserve the red lights. Yeah, Nick and Mix says, I think the AT-AT did too in Empire Strikes Back. I'm sorry, I just don't see the motion blur in Empire Strikes Back, says Algie80. Yeah, it still is pretty choppy. But that's the thing with all like CGI stuff. Is like even when they get it perfect, it's just not something you expect to see. Like you don't have any frame of reference of like what a Tauntaun is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to move. So even when you get CGI perfect, there's always that like uncanny valley sort of reaction where you're just like, I don't like it. I don't think it looks right. And so you're kind of screwed as a CGI artist. That no matter what you put on screen, people aren't going to believe it. Okay, so we're going to move on to round 3 here. Let me pop this one up. For drone pilots, the 30 minutes before and after sunrise and sunset are called what? What do we call this time? Someone will have to tell me in the chat how many people are watching on YouTube right now. I can see my dashboard for Twitch, but my little restream chat that's supposed to tell me my total viewership is not working. So I have no idea how many people are watching on YouTube. Maybe a lot of you have moved over because of the interactive Twitch nature. All right, I'm going to leave the green lights up because most of you got this right. This was Civil Twilight. Civil Twilight. I just like that name for some reason. It's something you learn about when you get your drone certification, and it's a period of time that you can fly in as a Part 107 pilot. You can fly half an hour before sunrise and half an hour after sunset. I do believe maybe technically you need to have anti-collision lights on your drone before and after sunset. All right. And Mickle190 says that Civil Twilight sounds like a band name. It just sounds cool. I like it. Okay, next question. Our math question for round 3. In a 1080p 30 timeline, a timeline with 30 frames a second, how long does 9,000 frames get you? And Algie's wondering if I have those red and green lights on my drones, which I don't, because I don't fly at night. All right, we got answers coming in. It's a weird math question to do. 9,000 frames, how long is that? Well, 9,000 divided by 60 seconds. Yeah, I think I have to type it out to do it. 9,000 divided by 60 is 150 seconds. Which, wait, I've confused myself completely. No, divided by 30 first. You get 300 seconds. Yes. 300. See, I can't even answer my own question. 300 seconds divided by 60 is 5 minutes. Most of you got this right. Great job. I'm going to leave the green lights going. You all did it. Congratulations on your math. And now we're going to go to our video for round 3. Let's see what it is. Oh, wait, we're already out of round 3. We're in round 4 right now. We're squarely in round 4. All right, so this one's fun. It's a clip that's actually going to show you a little bit of 2 different films. And I want to know which film is being referenced here. So let's go to that. So that's the 1987 film, The Untouchables, and that scene stroller falling down the stairs is a reference to a classic 1925 silent film, which you saw there. Alvar is here on YouTube. Good to see you, Alvar. As you can see, many of us are over here on Twitch because we're doing an interactive. I mean, you can definitely answer in the chat over on YouTube, but a lot of people have migrated over to Twitch so that they can populate this chart here, which works with a chat bot. This is actually called, well, I mean, you can see the URL every time I close it out. It's called pollmap.pe, ma.pe. And it looks like most of you got this right, so I'm going to leave the green lights going. You got it. It's Battleship Potemkin. Let's close out this poll. Yeah, a brutal film. Even, and it showed the power of editing that, like, even without music or, without sound, just, have to add music later. Just the power of editing that you could cut between, like, a child falling downstairs and a soldier massacring people. It kind of showed, like, how powerful the juxtaposition of 2 perhaps unrelated shots, but, like, thematically linked. Like, I don't think that soldier is attacking the baby in that scene, but it makes a powerful message and moment. All right, that was the end of round 4. So now we're going to go on to round 5. Remember, we're doing 8 rounds, 3 questions, so I think we're more than halfway done here. Let's go on to round 5. Let me pop up our next question. On a cloudy day, you could use a black flag or something called a floppy to achieve what? This is our film set question to start off round 5. Lots of answers coming in, and and all very correct answers. Yes, negative fill is the answer. Negative fill being like I'm not doing it here, but I don't really need it indoors really. Although I do have kind of almost a negative fill situation happening where like all my light's coming over here. Now, if I was outdoors and I was getting all this light, in fact, I mean you can see my backlight. If I wanted to get rid of that, this is where I use a floppy or a black flag, hang it down over the, cover up this side of me, and I can create that contrast on my face by just letting the light hit me on one side and avoiding the sun coming in this way. So negative fill is a great way to think about a minimalist way to do lighting outdoors. Instead of actually bringing more lights, maybe just bring something to block the light, and you can control which side you're getting contrast on. Now let's go to our math question in round 5. When filming 24 frames a second with a 90-degree shutter angle, what would your shutter speed be? This one already just breaks my brain thinking about it. Michael Manis says, "Oh no, I was too trigger happy." Let's see. I need to do this math myself. So if you were doing 24 frames a second at 180 shutter speed, it would be 1/48th second shutter. But 90 is even more closed down, so it's half as much as 180. So yeah, it'd be a 1/96th second shutter. You got it. Great job, everyone. And now let's move on to our round 5 video. Is that the round we're in? Yes. Oh, this one's a fun one. This is a trailer for a 1976 film, part of the trailer. And let's go to it.
Its technology has been perfected.
The New Delos is not only the most fantastic resort in human history, it is also fail-safe.
And an incredible new world has been created. If you can afford to go there, you're lucky. If you can't, you may be luckier than you think.
This is the sequel to the 1973 film Westworld, which, if you didn't realize, is 2 movies. That do exist. The first one was written and directed by Michael Crichton, and then they made another one, which was not written and directed by Michael Crichton. I watched the first one. I'd love to know if you watched Westworld. It was not good. I mean, the show is really good. I like the show. The movie was not great. And then the second one, I'm not even sure I bothered watching it. Lots of correct answers. The answer is indeed Future World. Congratulations. Medieval World and Roman World are both worlds that exist in the first Westworld movie and may or may not exist in the show. I don't know if they are some of the worlds there. But you're right. The movie's called Future World. Let's see what everyone's saying. Mickle 190's coming in with some a good explainer on shutter angle. Yeah, if you don't know what shutter angle is. And shutter angle only comes about because in the early days of filmmaking, film cameras had a spinning shutter that was actually like a half disc that covered up the frame during half of the frame, and then allowed the film to advance while it was covered up, and then it exposed the film for the other half of the frame. And so if you were shooting 24 frames a second, you would end up with a shutter speed that was naturally 1/48th of a second. It was exactly half the frame rate because only half of each frame is the shutter being exposed. But you could change that shape if you want. So a 90 degree would be where you only open it 90 degrees. So not 180, but 90. And then the rest of the time it's closed down. So it's actually faster shutter, less motion blur, and that's where we land on 1/96th of a second shutter. Crash Landed says Shogun World sounds sick though. That is in Westworld the show. They did Shogun World. Westworld has a CG shot when the android sees heat vision. Yeah, I remember that from the original Westworld film. And Mickle190 says, oh, sorry if you don't want links in the chat. No, please do. That was very useful. You're augmenting the show here. Thank you very much. Okay, that was the end of round 5. And you all got that right, so I'm going to leave these green lights going. So we're going to move on to round 6 of 8. We're getting close to the finish. And we're going to start with a filmmaking term here, which is, let's pop this one up. The Bechdel test, created in 1985. What does it measure in film? I'm proud to say that you've all gotten it right. Very good job. Yeah, I felt like this was a difficult one for me to write in a confusing way. I originally had like longer answers. Like I think I had like believability of a villain, but and I had like representation of women in film. But then I cut it down to hopefully throw you off a little bit more. But everyone knows this. This is great. I'm glad that you know what the Bechdel test is. Does anyone want to throw in the chat what the standards of the Bechdel test are? Do you remember? What are we looking for in a film to know if women are represented in a like a realistic way? That's really what this boils down to. Let's go to the chat. According to the Bechdel test, this lady's only 5 feet tall. That's from Rick and Morty. Yeah, Algie says 2 female characters talk to each other about something. Yes, this is the first standard is, are there 2 female characters in a scene together? Believe it or not, it doesn't happen all that often in major films. They have to talk to each other, which doesn't always happen, and it has to be about something other than a male character. And there are many films. I mean, I feel like it's like a flip of a coin. Like half of films don't do this. Whereas if you flipped this test onto men, I'm sure that most films have 2 male characters who talk to each other about something other than a woman. So I actually listen to a podcast sometimes called The Bechdel Test, which is just like a funny podcast with comedian Jamie Loftus, who talks through films that she likes with her co-star. But they talk about it through the lens of the Bechdel test too, which is always funny. Okay, next question is our math question for round 6. Standard definition 480i video was like when we were shooting standard definition 480 interlaced video, how many pixels wide was it? And I'm getting a lot of answers, but it could be a trick question. I don't know. It's not a trick question. It's true. But I'm very excited. I see some different answers coming in now. How many pixels wide? So 480 is the vertical number of pixels in standard definition 480i video. The number of horizontal pixels, I'm happy to bring up my red lights because most of you got this wrong. Let's see. Most of you said 640, which is kind of almost correct. Here's the thing about standard definition video back in the 2000s, late 90s, is the pixels were not square. The pixels had a 0.9 aspect ratio. So they were actually slightly slimmer than tall, like a rectangle. And so there were actually 720 pixels across in standard definition video and 480 pixels tall. The problem was when we started going to computers, you would take these awkwardly shaped pixels from televisions and take them to computers, which had square pixels, and suddenly 720 looks too wide, so we'd shrink it down to 640. But the video itself that you're recording in the camera was 720. But this is a good thing to look for if you're ever like working with old footage, or sometimes you still see this problem in people's videos. If you ever see video that's like 10% too wide, maybe it was standard definition video and they forgot this trick. They didn't know that these 720 pixels, you can't just play them on a computer normal shape. You gotta squeeze them down to 640. Let's go to the chat. I see some ahas. Shaggy Mummy says, aha. Nick and Mick says, what in the world? Michael Manis says, Griffin, you are exposing me. Hopefully nobody I work for is watching that you didn't know. Algie says, I'm having flashbacks to deinterlacing now. Thanks. Yeah, I made a point of calling that 480i interlaced video because that's what it was. But I don't even want to think about interlaced or frames. Yeah. Yeah, Shaggy Mummy says, if it's 4:3, then 640 is right. Yeah, you're right. That's the thing. To get the right aspect ratio on a computer, it has to be 640. Adrian says, we're getting the red light, guys. And Yolo Snail says, sorry, I don't speak NTSC. Okay, let's move on to our final question in round 6, which is our movie question. So I want to show you a little bit of the film Breathless from 1960.
Merde, la flic aille. Oh, crocodile a sauté. Ne bouge pas ou je te brûle.
All right, I'm wondering if I can, without playing it, if I can just move through this. If you've never seen Breathless, one thing about the French New Wave, this was a lot of young filmmakers in France who were getting into, I mean, they're essentially the DIY filmmakers of their day. And they were trying to break all the rules of classical Hollywood filmmaking. And so this scene alone breaks so many rules, like a lot of 180-degree blocking, breaking that down, like he's moving this way and then in the next shot he's moving the other way, and you know, it's like hard to follow a car chase when things are moving the wrong way. Like, are they chasing him or not? And even like, I think there's a jump cut right here, you know, very much a jump cut because it's like the same content, different camera position, I mean, but same angle. Really bad jump cut. Like, they were trying all this stuff on purpose, and you know, at the end, like, he shoots the gun, and does it even fire on camera? It doesn't, but you hear it. So it's like, is it a gunshot? So they're just like messing with you in Breathless. And so I want to know, you know, there were a lot of French New Wave films doing these sorts of things, but which French New Wave director was responsible for this film, Breathless? And it's because of films like Breathless that we accept jump cuts as like a normal storytelling thing. It's okay to like cut in the middle of the scene to something else that happens in the future. We get that now as audiences. But this was definitely jarring when you first watched this in 1960. You'd be like, what is happening? I think us as audiences, we had no problem following that and like coming up with our thoughts on that. And, ooh, I'm excited to finally give you the green light. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, I cut the wrong thing somehow. I just wanted to cut to my main screen and show you all the green lights because you got it right. It was Jean-Luc Godard, the director of Breathless. And Francois Truffaut is another, probably the other most famous French New Wave director, which I think someone pointed out in the chat. Yeah, Algie says, I always confuse Godard and Truffaut. And Nick and Mick says, lucky guess. And I have to acknowledge the joke that Algie said earlier. I'm not your NTSC, pal. I like that joke. And I like the comment from Adrian Rascon, who says, this looks like a 2007 YouTube video. It does. I love that it's, let's go back to it. I love that it's in standard definition. I mean, it's not standard definition. It's in 4:3. It's actually much higher quality. Although it is a bad YouTube video that I had to pull down from. But yeah, it does look like some student filmmakers' work, which essentially it is. But it was bold for its time because no one was willing to, could you make a film and break all the rules and still have people watch it? All right, so it's time to go to round 7 of 8. Algie says, and as far as I know, they started out with film criticism before making movies themselves. Yes, I remember that. There's not a lot I remember from film school, but I vaguely remember these stories. Okay, let's move on to round 7. Here is our filmmaking terminology question to start off this round. Which is not used to diffuse light? And I appreciate all of you who've stuck with me. We've had a good audience coming along for the ride today. I thought this would be fun. It was a lot of work, though. I probably won't be able to do this. I'm not gonna do this like weekly, but maybe I'll start writing questions, and once I get to enough questions, then we'll do another one. It looks like you all have a consensus. Oh, I say that, and then someone threw in scrim. So Nick and Mick says, "Oops, sorry." You all are right. 40-degree grid is not something that diffuses light. It actually, it's that little, I don't have a picture of it, but it's just that egg crate grid that lets light move in one direction. That kind of blocks it from spilling out the other ways. But yeah, a frost and a scrim and a silk would all be things to diffuse the light. And let's move on to our math question for round 7. Actually, before I do that, let's go to the chat where Hankomatic is coming up with the French version of my name. What is that? Griffane Amond. Mickle190 says, "You're doing so great at this, the game show. Thank you." Nick and Mick says, "I wasn't trying to be silly. I just realized I didn't vote." I'm glad you threw in your vote last minute. And I love it when people don't all answer the same question or the same answer. Dr. Henchman says, once used parchment paper to diffuse light on a corporate video. Oh yeah, definitely. Use whatever you need to use. Bounce it off a wall if you have to. Curtis Watson says, I went to film school. Dollar store shower curtain from Shaggy Mummy. Yeah. Praying for a focus pulling question. I don't think I have any today. Wouldn't it be great if I could somehow be like, all right, now you need to pull some focus for this next question. All right, but here's our math question. Let's do it. When an SD card says it writes 90 capital MB per S, what's its write speed in lowercase mbps? This is, I'm sure many of you will know this, but this is a question that I get a lot. There's a lot of confusion in filmmaking about what do write speeds on SD cards even mean. Algie says, nope, which I'm guessing is a reaction to the question. Oh, and we also have Mikkel190 says, praying for some editing questions. That's what I should do next time, like J cuts, L cuts. I don't know. I didn't even think about editing. I guess that's what was in my brain when I'm thinking about like pixels and frame rates, that kind of math. And Shaggy Mummy is onto something. Says 8 bits per byte. Yes. And just buy the big numbers. Says LG80. And you can use solid state drives, SSDs on a Pocket 6K Pro. So let's see. For this question, I actually think maybe most of you got this wrong. Let's see. 90 megabytes per second times 8 to get to bits is 720 megabits per second. Yeah. So you all said 900, but that's not right. So we need to, unfortunately, give you the red lights. But yeah, this is it's so confusing because people will say things to me like, you know, you go out and buy a card, it says 90 MB/S on it, and someone says, well, I know this camera records 100 megabits per second, so can I not put it on that card? No, the card makers for some reason put megabytes, and the camera makers do megabits, which are 8 times bigger. So yeah, like your 90 megabyte card can actually do a lot higher than that. So hopefully you're not only spending way too much money on SD cards when you don't need to be. But also note that a lot of times like SanDisk will put the read speed on the front of the card rather than the write speed. So even if it says 90 megabytes per second, it might not actually be that's what its write speed is. It might be able to read faster than write. Yeah. Yellow Snail says, I thought I was going crazy there. And Mikkel190 points out that we're in the red light district now because of these red lights. Polo Joe, don't tell the client we need a cheaper card. Yeah, and Nick and Mick says, yeah, it's deceiving that they put the read speed, not the write speed. Like the write speed is what's important. I guess the read speed is nice for when you pop in the card and you need to copy the files. That's fun, but... and Yellow Snail says storage is typically measured in bytes, so maybe that does make sense. But yeah, it's weird. Shaggy Mummy says you can calculate what speed you need based on the bit rate of video and do a speed test to determine the write speed of media. Yeah. Sometimes I've run like the Blackmagic disk. What is it called? Like the disk speed test. You can run it on an SD card. I've done that before to really, because you know they may lie too, or they may be wrong. Like it may say 90 megabytes per second read speed. And you may test it and it may max out at 72. Who knows? So good to check yourself. All right. Where are we right now? We are in round 7. And it's time to go to our movie clip for round 7, our second to last round.
She's got to talk into the mic. I can't pick it up.
Cut! What's the matter, Dexter?
Lena, look, Lena, don't you remember I told you there's a microphone right there in the bush?
Yeah.
You have to talk into it.
I like this clip because it's a 1950s movie, but it's set in classical Hollywood 1927. And I had heard this in film school that they would like hide mics in plants because the mics are so big. And so I like this visual of actually seeing the mic, this giant mic in a plant that you couldn't just put a lav on someone or, you know, maybe even do a boom. That they were finding creative places to put mics on Hollywood sets. And it looks like, well, let's see. Some people are saying no clue. Nick and Mix says no clue. Or Shaggy Mummy says no clue. Yellow Snails, thanks for doing 3 just to be different. I did find a bunch of different popular films from the 1950s. But you all are super smart. This is Singing in the Rain. Good job. So that means I get to bring you back to green lights. I love this color. It's not like this green. It's kind of like a blue green. I always love a blue green for a light. So good job on that question. We're going to head into our final round in a moment. But first, I want to talk about these lights behind me, and I'll show you a little clip from how I built them. And earlier, Algie said it looked like one of my old DIY filmmaking tutorials from Indie Mogul, and yeah, it was a lot like that. So let me show you this quick clip of me building this today. This was a very fast edit, so I didn't even bother with like audio transitions. Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you, everyone. That is the rig behind me. Let me cut back to it. And as we got a chat comment asking if these are aperture B7C bulbs, and they are. These bulbs, the problem I've had with them is I haven't really figured out where to use them, because I don't do a lot of like practical, like I have a lamp on set that I need to put these in. That's what they would really be good for, is, you know, just putting into a light on set. The cool thing about them, if you don't know about these lights, is that I have them powered up on this thing, which is great, because the problem I always have with them is they come in this little charging case. They actually all have batteries inside. So the beauty is they don't actually need to be plugged in. They will work even if I unplug this thing. But my problem that I have is I leave them in this case. This is actually like a charging case. Oops. Get back to my video. And this is like a little charging case that they go in. But the problem I always have is I'll charge them up and then I won't use them for like 2 weeks. And then I'll come back and try to use one and they're all dead because they've been like in ready mode or something. And so I knew I needed something. I needed some fixture I could put them in that was just always, that had power, because I'm never going to be able to use them on battery power when I like remember to use them. And I wanted something rigid that I could like put in the background. I mean, this is kind of a funny place to put it, just like right over my head where you can see the light stands. But I wanted to make something like this. It'll be fun to like play around with it in backgrounds and see what I can do with it. But that was the idea here. And Yellow Snail is saying, what wood is that? I'm getting both oak and pine vibes. It might be oak. This is just something I found in my garage from the previous owner, but it was thick wood. It took me a while to cut through it. And then it's funny, Nick and Mick says, whoa, did I just see a stripper on YouTube? You know what's funny is Peter was watching something in the background. It was probably, I'll have to go back and look at the video. It was probably like someone playing with tractors or something. Although now everyone will have to go back and look. I don't think it was anything problematic. Let's see. Nick and Mick says, how cold is it in your shop? Yeah, I was going out into my garage where it was just super cold. I mean, it was like 15 degrees out there. And Yolo Snail says, how much would that cost to make? Probably more than it should have, because like one thing about it is that I bought each socket, but like I could have probably just bought a like existing string lights and not wired it myself, and it probably would have been cheaper. The problem is these B7C bulbs, they flange out real fast and real big right out the gate. So the problem is some string lights that I've used are like the collar comes up too much on the socket, and these won't go deep enough. So I had to kind of custom build this thing to make it work. Let's see. Let's go back to the chat. This kit is an amazing rental item. Oh yeah, what, these lights? I do like that it comes in this case, but yeah, I haven't figured out like what to do with them yet. So this is like my first step of trying to figure out what to do with them. And then I've been using the Sidus Link app that Aperture makes, and it's just not very intuitive. I need to figure out. Oh, now I see the joke from Nick and Mix. The wire stripper. Yes, you did see a stripper on YouTube. Sorry. But yeah, I need to figure out how to use this Sidus Link app a little bit better. It's not very very intuitive. I'll show you. I do have a few like saved things on here. I did this one, which the colors are kind of hard to see in this orientation at this exposure, but I actually set these for Peter. These are the color of all the planets. Actually, I'll just stop down for a second. This is like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Yeah, I think that's right. I also have, I think I have something called Peter's favorite colors here. Let's see. Is this one of them off? I came up with the red lights for you today and the green lights for you. And at first I was like, oh, I have 8 rounds. So I'll do like, all right, we're going to round 1. We're going to round 2. But this was how bad the Sidus Link app is. It just took me too long to like set this up. I didn't get past 2. That's as far as I went. Mikkel says, it's a great idea. They could also be mounted close to a wall to give a wash of color, a color curtain. Yeah. I thought about even building this as like, I almost wanted to make it as like a motorized circle. Because I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to like shoot through it and then you could spin it and you'd see the light colors dancing on your subject in different ways. But that was way too difficult for me, so I didn't do that. And then Polo Joe wants to know, what are you using to mount the wood to the stand? That's a great question. Let me go to this shot. So I'll just walk over here for a second. I think I can probably undo this for you. So I got these little, let's see if you can see this. Yeah. I got this, it's just like a screw-on light mount, and I'm using this Westcott little ball joint thing that connects to a light stand. So I have 2 light stands here holding this thing up with this little Westcott ball joint adapter attached to this. Right now I'm using 2 light stands, but I also kind of imagine that another fun orientation for this would be to just do 1 light stand and just have the thing vertical, and it would cover up the light stand, so you wouldn't even see the light stand. That's how I think this could be fun. Just be like a floating stick of light. But this is fun to like throw it over my head right now to say. Well, and the reason I went down this road was like, is there a way to let you with like a chat bot on Twitch control the lights for me? And I thought it would be promising, except that this Sidus Link is so hard to use. It uses Bluetooth to talk to these. I feel like this would be a lot easier if I just put Philips Hue bulbs in here. Then I know that I could set up a chatbot to make you control Philips Hue bulbs. These are not Wi-Fi connected. They're Bluetooth controlled, and the app is a little wonky. So I feel like you'd have to build a whole app on top of it to control it through chat. I'm not sure it's possible. In a moment, we'll go to our final round of the show, but I want to get through the chat real quick. Let's see. Mikkel says, oh, in vertical, it could be a very confusing traffic light. Yeah. In fact, that'd be a fun way to do it. I feel like a more economical solution would be an addressable LED strip. Yeah, I mean, like, this is not a project that made a whole lot of sense necessarily. It was just, I have these 8 bulbs that Aperture was kind enough to give to me, and they're really fun bulbs to use. And Also, one benefit of these, because they're not Hue, is the Hue lights, as I've talked about on the podcast, are weird. They have like a 100 hertz refresh rate, even though I guess they are made in Europe. But I'm here in the US where the power is 120 hertz. These bulbs flicker at a different rate. So I get flicker when I'm in this shutter speed. So if I was using Hue bulbs right now, I would need to cheat my shutter to avoid that flicker. These aperture bulbs don't have flicker because they're made to be filmmaking bulbs. That's kind of the fun thing about them. And Nick and Mix wonders if I could do something with IFTTT, which I could if like these were just easier to control. Like I feel like there is no like good interface to like interface with IFTTT or something. They're just hard to control. Polo Joe says, thank you. I might need to pick them up. I love the lights. I use them on set over the summer in an old house. I mean, that's where they're perfect. It's like you go into someone's home, you need to shoot, you need to replace their flickery lights, their lights that can't be color controlled, can't be brightness controlled. I mean, actually, these are pretty low brightness right now. They're probably at like 15% brightness, which just shows you, and I have an ND filter on, just shows you like, you don't need a practical bulb on set to be all that bright to tell you its color. In fact, if it gets much brighter than this, you can't even tell its color at all. In fact, arguably, they're too bright. So I find that as a practical light, I'm usually using them turned down pretty low, which is good because they're lower than a Hue light in lumens, I think. I feel like these are only like 600 lumens or something. A Hue bulb is like 800, but you really don't need these to be a fill light. You want them to be an accent light to actually show up and show their color. Jari Visual says, never use those bulbs, but seems very time consuming. Yeah. And that the B7C are amazing, but hate having to change the settings on my phone. Yeah. The phone app just, I mean, if it were a better app or just like more simple, I don't know. Yeah. It seems like it can do a lot. Like it's cool that I'll just show you, like, I'm a little bit confused on like how to get to, it's always confusing how to get to like the things I want to get to. So like right now I can see all 8 of my bulbs. If I go to all fixtures, okay, I am on the effects tab now. So now I can do party lights. And I hit play, but nothing happened. Push play again. Now it's doing something. There we go. Now it's doing party lights. But it just feels like it takes many clicks, and like the menus don't always show up depending on the mode you're in. It's not very intuitive at all, which is a shame. Because clearly it can do a lot. There's clearly like any colors, any effects I want to do. It just takes me a while to get to the menus and to save the stuff I want to save. And Yellow Snail says, so does the app need to connect to them all individually, or do they make a mesh network and you just connect to one and speak to them all? Yes to both. The app connects to each one individually when you set it up for the first time. Then they are a mesh network. They talk to each other. So presumably, as long as I was within range of one of them with Bluetooth, it could tell the next one down the chain to do its bidding. But this is kind of annoying. Like every once in a while, I'll open up the app and it'll be like, "Oh, you're not in it anymore. You're not in the bulbs anymore." So you have to click on the bulbs, and it could take a second to load all of them. Sometimes it says like, "You've been disconnected for a while. I need to like rehash the network," and it like sits on this thing for a while. So it's not, it's not like I walk in a room and I go, "Hey, it's time to turn on my lights." Boom. It's more like I need to do several clicks, and this is gonna take 30 seconds to like get these things going. So that's why I just don't think they will work with like a Twitch chatbot or something. Look into string WS2811 LEDs, says Shaggy Mummy. And Polo Joe says, yeah, I made my best boy, the person in charge of the B7C app. Yeah, it was a full-time job to make them work, but the app can do a lot of cool things from my understanding. Yeah, I get the sense that like I could design a whole set and do all sorts of things with this app. I think it's a very ambitious app, but it's just, coming from like the Hue app, which like you make a scene, boom, like, and then you can like program a switch on your wall to like load a scene. And I can do that with like my Stream Deck. My Stream Deck can open up a scene on my Hue lights. They're just very versatile with third-party things in a way that the aperture lights are not. And Crash Landon wants to know, based on my 1,000-foot challenge yesterday. How do we think the aperture bulbs could do? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the limitation on Bluetooth is, how far I could put each of these away from each other. Clearly 6.5 inches apart is not an amazing challenge here. All right, so let's go to our final round. Thank you all for sticking with me. And I think I'm not a sports person. I think we're still more than an hour away from when the Super Bowl starts, so hopefully I'm not cutting into your Super Bowl time. But let's go to our final round of questions. Oh, I think you'll like this next question. Let's go. This is our film stuff question for this round. Panasonic recently said they're officially launching the Lumix GH6 camera on what day? It looks like everyone knows. Everyone's excited. Yeah, I think technically it's February 22nd in Europe and Asia, but it's February 21st here in the US, I think, because I think they're doing like a prime time, nighttime announcement launch. And I'm sorry to say that I do not have a GH6 here in my office. What is this, GH5? I'm shooting on two GH5 Mark IIs here. And I don't have a GH6. I'm not lying when I tell you I don't have one to show you. Lots of people have asked me because I was the global brand ambassador for the GH5, and I do know a lot about these cameras. I teach about them a lot. And also when the GH5 Mark II came out, they let me shoot something early with it, but that hasn't happened with the GH6. It's not like my relationship with Panasonic is strained. I'm still doing projects with them. They just haven't asked me to do that one, which may signal like I don't know all the features of this new camera. It may have features that are not the right fit for me. They may have like some very intense cinematic features. I don't know, because I do find that sometimes they'll go with a different style filmmaker depending on like the features of the camera. But yeah, you all were right there. February 21st. I almost want to do, I'll have to look at what day that is. I've been thinking it'd be fun to do, in the same way that like I'm cutting to clips here.
You gotta talk into the mic. I can't pick it up.
It might be fun to do a live stream with a live event happening. So I might, I don't know if that'd be rude to Panasonic to like do my own stream on top of their stream, but let me know if you'd be interested in something like that. Let's go to question number 2 of our final round here. Adrian Rascon says, it is your signature camera after all. Yeah. And Shaggy Mummy says, I went down the Micro Four Thirds GH line thanks to your recommendations years ago. Yeah. I don't feel like you have to stick with it because of me, but I like the cameras. I'm glad you enjoyed them. Yellow Snail says Panasonic doesn't like me anymore. All right, let's go to our second question of our final round. Here we go. If you're shooting a time lapse and you want to use 180-degree shutter because you want like the normal amount of motion blur, what would your shutter be if you are shooting a 1-second exposure? So actually, that video you watched, let's go back to it for a minute. That was a 1-second shutter. And actually, I feel like I was cheating on the shutter. I probably didn't even get the shutter right. But 1-second exposures. So what should I have set my shutter to correctly get the right amount of motion blur? And it looks like, yeah, split room, says Nick and Mix. Ooh, it's neck and neck. All right, we need a tie-breaking vote here. Someone's gotta throw a vote in. What's it gonna be? Oh, it didn't help. Yeah. So Algie's saying, do I mean a 1-second interval? Yes. Wait. Yeah. 1-second interval between shots. So what should be the shutter time? Although even that's confusing because sometimes cameras do it differently. Like, are you including the shutter time in the interval? Is it a shutter then an interval, or is it On my camera, the shutter is part of the interval. So if it's a 1 second exposure, or sorry, 1 second interval, you can include your exposure inside that. Yeah, I guess it's kind of a trick question depending on how your camera talks about it. We're still all tied up. we need one more vote to break the tie. Oh, there we go. We broke it. Let's close it. You all went with 2 seconds, which is I gotta bring up my lights here. It's wrong. In fact, it would be hard to do a 2 second exposure inside a 1 second interval. I mean, it wouldn't be possible unless you're doing the interval and then the exposure, you know. But yeah, to get a 180 degree shutter, if I'm setting the camera to take a photo every 1 second, I want that shutter to be at half a second. The same way that if I was shooting 24 frames per second, I would want my shutter to be half of that, 1/48th. So that's what a 180 degree shutter means, is half the frame rate is your shutter speed. So I bring this up just to say it's important to remember it even in time lapses. Your time lapse is not a traditional frame rate like 24 or 30 or 60, but it is, if you're shooting a photo every second, that is your frame rate, 1 frame per second. So your shutter speed should be half of that, half a second. And now it's time to go to our final question of the game show today. Let's do it. Let's see, do I remember what it is? It's our oldest film. Oh yeah. So you're just gonna watch this and we'll come right back.
With the coming of the Second World War, many eyes in imprisoned Europe turned hopefully or desperately toward the freedom of the Americas. Lisbon became the great embarkation point, but not everybody could get to Lisbon directly, and so a tortuous roundabout refugee trail sprang up.
All right, that is our final question. What film started with this scene? This was the opening scene right after the credits in this film. And I remember the first time I saw this film, I just thought like, wow, a practical globe, not it's not even floating. It's like on the floor, I think. But just, not the way a modern film would have gone about it. But this is the 1942 Best Picture film. And I'll let you vote for a second while I grab some more water. Okay, it looks like most of you have weighed in on Casablanca, which is correct. Yay, we get to finish. Oh, I just clicked the wrong thing. We get to finish off with green lights. The only two scenes that I've really developed for this this thing behind me is green and red, and then I can barely figure out how to do the effects. And it'd be so nice if I could then program it into my Stream Deck, which, like I was explaining, I can't. Because I can control these hue lights with the Stream Deck. Shaggy Mummy says, haven't seen Casablanca. In fact, I can't remember, was it you or someone else who earlier said, like, old films just suck, right? Who said that? I mean, to an extent, yes. Although you should see Casablanca. It's one of those, I think, when I first saw it as like a teenager, I think it was that opening sequence that made me think like, oh, what am I getting into? Like this, that kind of like stereotypically looks like a bad old black and white 4:3 film. But if you just get past that little globe spinning, it's a really fun story, interesting characters. And all the classic lines you maybe didn't realize come from that film. ETT is here on YouTube. Hello there, everyone. Good to see you. Mikkel says, you're all very smart. Yeah, and we did it without Eric here. Eric Fakardzada, who pretty much won the last trivia because of his fast internet connection. This time, I tried to use the polling system to not level the playing field, but kind of say, like, it doesn't matter who gets it right. We're collectively trying to get these right. And Nick and Mix is calling out Yellow Snail as the one who said old films suck. Which film was it that we were talking about when you said that? Maybe it was Battleship Potemkin, or maybe it was Breathless. I don't know. So before we shut down the show, I want to thank you all for joining me, and I'll stick around for a few more minutes to answer any questions you have. But I want to say, one, this was a lot of fun. Two, thank you for helping me on my 4-day streamathon. Essentially, I did a stream Friday, my first gaming stream. Then yesterday I went outside with the HDMI transmitter to see how far it could go, and it went about as far as I expected it to. I mean, I got to around like 600 feet away from the house when it started to get pretty choppy, and I tried to go to 1,000 feet, which is its advertised distance, and it was way too broken up by then. But I don't blame the transmitter, because I had houses between me and there. It's supposed to be line of sight 1,000 feet, so I actually got pretty far with like woods and houses in the way before it broke down. So that was fun. You all are here with me on the trivia show, and then tomorrow I'm going to do my final of this 4-day streaming, all these live streams, because I'm trying to hit the last milestone of becoming a Twitch affiliate. I just need more streams in a month. I already have enough followers. I already have enough hours. I already have enough average viewership. I just need to get 7 days a month, which is hard for me if I'm just doing weekly streams. I would only get 4, so hence the 3 extra ones. So tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Time, I'll do my final one of this run, and if you want to join me, it'll be fun to have you there. And this was a lot of fun. This is like maybe the most ambitious technical stream I've done so far, like building something for the set and then loading in all these videos. I mean, having to edit all these different videos to show you, but then loading them into the Stream Deck to play. That was a lot of fun. Nick and Mick says, thanks, Griffin. Been following your work for some time now, and I always look forward to see what Griffin made. Yeah, and it's been a while since I've done something, woodworking. It's not the most amazing woodworking project, but it's just fun to like get the drill out and wire something up and remind myself that I can do that. It's possible. Let's see. ETT wants to know, when are you doing trivia next time? Like I was saying earlier in the show, it takes a while to write all these questions and to prep all these clips. I guess the good thing is they're evergreen. I could have done this show a month from now and it still would have made sense. But also I'm going to like run out of good questions too. So it may take me a while to come up with more questions, but I don't know, maybe I'll do another one in a month or two, but it's not going to be like a weekly thing. I'll try to do streams weekly probably, but not the game show all the time. So I'm glad that you all were here for it. And this was a good chance for me to test out some things. Like I've been playing around with this poll mappy. Let me see if it's still up. I should shout out the chat bot I was using. Yeah, let's do the question again here. I suppose you can answer it again, even though I already know the answer. But this is well, you see it in the chat. It says, doesn't it say poll mappy bot? Yeah. Just something you can, like a plugin you can install on Twitch. And we'll talk about this tomorrow. This is one of the reasons I want to become a Twitch affiliate, is so that I have access to a basic piece of functionality called Twitch polls. I don't have that right now, so I'm using this chatbot, which actually it's pretty fun that it, the way it shows up, and it is interesting. Although I think people are purposefully answering answers that don't show up. That's great. I love that you're answering 5, 8, 2.5. Yeah, play around with it now. It doesn't work. Although you can actually like type the word Casablanca. I'll do that. I think that's kind of cool about this chatbot, that it actually recognizes the word. I just put in Casablanca and ding, it got it. I also like that it only counts you once, which I think is the same as how Twitch polls work. I'm curious what would happen if I had 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the T's for these answers, but what if the answers themselves were like 2, 3, 4, 5? I don't know how that interaction would work, if that would work correctly. Hi, Peter. Do you want to come in here? I think Pete just woke up from his nap. Hi, Pete. You want to come up here? How you doing? Are you pretty sleepy?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you just want to lay on my shoulder for a moment? Yeah? We've got a sleepy kid here. Oh. You can look at the lights behind me. I'm so glad that you came to see me. One of our friends here in the chat, Nick and Mix, says that you look groggy, which is another word for sleepy. Everyone's saying hi to you, though. Mickle90 says, hello, Peter. And Algie's talking about classic films, says, I'm just saying, people expect classics to be amazing by today's standards. That's right. When we should also always consider their context. Yeah, like watching that 1960 film, Breathless, realizing that, like, the things that they were doing that looked amateurish were not things that existed yet. You know, like certain visual grammars had not been established yet in film. That's kind of the interesting thing about film history to me, is that, like, you know, those first films were just figuring things out the way that they wanted to do it, in a way that we don't have the ability now. You know, we're now talking to audiences that have pretty good media literacy. They've seen a lot of things. Shaggy Mummy says, howdy, Pete. And Crash Landon wants to know, what color light is Peter's favorite color? Pete, do you want to tell everyone what color you like the most for the lights? I love you, Pete. Actually, Pete, did you know that I have Pete's favorite colors set up for these lights? Do you see them? Pete's colors.
Is what comes out on the tongue in this 2, 3 blues and 2 green.
That's right.
And that's white.
Yeah, these are the colors that Pete picked to go on the hue lights once, and he said that they were his favorite colors, kind of like a blue and orange and kind of a like greeny blue. So I set those up for on here. And then I also have the solar system, Pete. I have Mercury, Venus, Earth. What's this one?
Mars.
Mars, yeah. What comes after Mars? What's the biggest one?
Jupiter.
Jupiter. And then what's next?
Saturn.
Yeah. And then after Saturn?
Neptune.
I think Neptune is the last one, maybe? Or maybe you're right. I should trust you, because he usually knows.
And then Uranus.
Uranus. And then Neptune, is that right?
And then...
Yeah, Nix and Mix says it's Uranus and Neptune, yeah.
Yes, and Sun. We get this.
Oh, yeah, this could be the sun, I guess. Let's cut to our sun shot. Yeah, here's the sun. We got our sun right here. Aperture lights are creating our whole solar system here. The sun and then Mercury. Which is your favorite planet?
Earth.
Earth? It's a great one.
And that's a faraway star.
Oh, and that's a faraway star. He's talking about the... that's a great observation. He's talking about the backlight over here. A faraway star. What star do you think it is?
I think it's one of Jupiter's stars.
One of Jupiter's stars?
Yes, I think.
That's a good idea.
I think that's one of the planet's moon, or maybe the sun's moon.
Maybe one of these planets' moons or one of the sun's moons. You have some interesting ideas about the solar system. That's great. Let's go back to our chat.
And let's go back to planet.
Yeah, Shaggy Mummy points out that teal and orange are a great choice, Peter. The classic colors that filmmakers like, which is why Mickle says future Hollywood color grader right there. And Nick and Mix is giving us a good what are those things called? Like an acronym, a sentence acronym to remember the solar system. My very excellent mother just served us nachos. Yeah. Although Pete talks about the solar system so much that now I just know, I just intrinsically understand that Jupiter is the planet after the asteroid belt. Like I don't think I need, but it is those last two that sometimes confuse me. Earth is a great answer, yeah. LOL, is the sun set to daylight balance? You know, that's... No, it's actually like very blue to look like water, but that's a good point. Well, and the way that I set these colors is kind of interesting. That is like one cool thing that this app can do, the Sidus Link app from Aperture, is that you can take pictures of things. And so I actually like just took pictures in a book of like, here's approximately what Mercury looks like. Here's what Venus looks like. That's kind of fun that you can do that. All right, well, now that Pete's up, it's probably time for me to go hang out with him. Pete, do you want to say goodbye to everyone?
Bye.
We'll close out the stream here. Why don't you come up here? I want to thank everyone for joining me, and be sure to come again tomorrow if you want to come to the Twitch affiliate talk. Okay, why don't you wave goodbye?
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for hanging out today.